All right. Well, we're here on YouTube because we couldn't be on Facebook, so we're glad to be here at all. Given the storms of yesterday, a lot of people can't say they're not here. So they'll get back online or have electricity maybe by Sunday. Oh, geez. I mean, this was a big storm that came through, I guess, in this region and certainly further south than where we are in North Carolina. It took a large swath of folks, and it was the wind. So I'm appreciative of anybody who's able to be here right now, particularly as we aren't even where we usually are. So yesterday we were talking about the meaning behind I don't care. What could it mean? And, we talked about some things like, I really don't have an investment in which way we go. I'm apathetic. I'm angry. I'm frustrated because I don't think that what I care about matters to others. And so we wanted to switch it a little bit because we got a couple of interesting thoughts or comments or questions yesterday, and I want to follow up on them. And so one is that sometimes people are asked to do things in what really is a fairly unreasonable time frame for the task that's been asked of them with the people they're supposed to provide that task with or give the care to. Even if you're just doing something to somebody, if that somebody is really challenged with engaging and interacting, and they don't actually care for what you're doing. And when I say that, I mean, they don't want what you're offering. And it's either typically because it's painful, it's uncomfortable, it's unfamiliar, it's not something that I even understand the value of. So when someone is asked to do a task, a thing, and they have a time frame that is like really being enforced, and it's being enforced by virtue of how many people I'm trying to support and care for, or how many of these tasks I have to get done in a certain time, and the expectation of the norm, and I should be able to stay within that norm. So if I take more with this person, then I better take less with the next person so that it all averages out, because there's only one of me and this many people I'm supposed to do something with. As though it's like stocking groceries on a shelf, or wiping countertops. I should be able to wipe this many countertops. And we know that with increasing age, the speed of performance actually may not be as high, but the quality of that performance can be quite high, particularly as I gain expertise about the value of careful wiping and thorough wiping and what the purpose behind the wiping is. Even wiping a counter, the quality of the wiping versus the speed of the wiping. And sometimes I think what happens is I have this many counters to be wiped and I only have this many people. So therefore, this is the amount of time you can spend on a counter. And it's like, during this time, if no other time in history, I think we have a new appreciation for the quality of the wiping and what goes on between each wiping session before we start going, yeah, just do more counters and more counters and more counters. Because the quantity of counter wiping versus the quality, if I don't get the counter wipe clean, then I might as well not have bothered to wipe the counter in the first place, because the thing I was wiping it for was this invisible but valuable thing to understand, which if I don't get all the surfaces that are possible, and particularly all the surfaces someone who's sitting at the counter, not leaning in to wipe it, but sitting at the counter might expose themselves to in some fashion, then I might be the cause of a spread of something that can literally kill people or make them incredibly ill or cause them to pass it on to someone else. They don't even get sick, but they pass it on to somebody else, not even knowing. So I am the source of the problem. And I picked the counter wiping because that's how very often leaders above or people who aren't intimately involved in care see care. It's just, you get this many done in a period of time. So I should be able to have this many workers to care for that many people. And what they're most interested, their variable of interest often has to do with cost and profit. And how can I have you do that and you do this and you do this? And when you add it all together, I still come out on the green side, not the red side. So if that's a bottom line for someone, and the guidelines or rules say you have to have at least this many someones to do this, then we better be really sure that this many someones to do this reflect real engagement and care, or what we're getting is work that might as well not have been done in the first place and actually causes more trouble than it solves. Because people say, well, I wiped the counters. And we watch someone wiping the counters when they're supposed to do 20 counters in this amount of time. And we find, but they didn't get the edges. They didn't get that front side where somebody might brush up or might lean down and cough, or where they might put their hands or rest their forearms. We missed a vital part of that counter. We might have missed where they messed with the menu. Now, we all sort of are much more sensitized to this, but did we adjust the norms to take into account, well, did they actually start with a fresh wipe? Or did they keep using the wipe that they used before and they squirted the stuff on the counter, but they didn't make sure the wipe was absolutely saturated with whatever the solution was? So I keep going back to this counter wiping, because to even think about the reality of this is how many people need to be provided support and care. And so this is how many people you will have to do that. And we'll base that on some average number of something, or the profit margin. This is how many, or what some guideline says, well, that's the minimum number. All right, well, that's what we're going to do then. Can we count these people? Yeah, you can count those. Or this is how much time you have to do this task with this person. But there's no consideration of the engagement or involvement or their abilities of the person. So the question that came in yesterday, frankly, that brought all this up, was in a phlebotomy, a situation where they are given 7 minutes per draw. And it's like, well, I can pretty much tell you that in many cases, if you don't take a little more time, you're not going to get a draw of blood from a vein where somebody has to hold their arm like this because they don't have enough blood vessel structure and enough hydration in them to allow you to draw blood from here. You're not going to get it. I mean, you can try it. All you'll do is poke, 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 which takes up time because you have to do all that. But to get it from here, I have to get a pretty decent, oh, by the way, on me, you better not try this side. This side doesn't work. I can tell you that from years and years of practice. I can tell you that the only place you'll actually get good quality draw is my left. My right side, for some reason, the veins roll. They're very difficult to get in. They're very thick. I don't know what it is, but I know by history, you don't want to do this arm. And yet this would be an arm that many people might pick because you just don't think about it and you do it. And it's just automatic because I shake hands with this hand and I put my arm out and you think, oh, okay, well, that's even further ahead. I'm just going to take a brother, hey. And I go, hey, and then all of a sudden there's a needle. No. And you think I'm agitated or distressed because you're sticking a needle in my arm. And actually it's that don't use that arm. But I don't have any words to describe that. And I even could understand what you're trying to do. And I would be, no, you've got to. And when I bring my other arm over, if I don't have a lot of skill, you think I'm trying to hit you. I'm trying to show you the arm you take it from. Because I might not even be arguing with you. I'm trying to tell you something. But if I have language deficit, unless you have the time and the ability to pick up on that, well, why would you train a phlebotomist in dementia? They're not going to be giving care. So what does make sense? Well, first of all, I have to consider the expertise and the time that someone has spent in this field and the skill that they already have, because I will tell you that novices learning a new skill like phlebotomy, like newer phlebotomists, they take longer in general, and they just are learning the routine of that. Now we've already added COVID on top of that. So now there's new kinds of going on with that. And then on top of that, we add things like dementia. ability differences, hard of hearing, visual disturbances, maybe having had strokes, because people who are drawing blood are frequently in situations where there's question about a change in status. Could they have something going on internally, which often means there have been an additional new brain change, not just their traditional dementia. So what's a reasonable number? Well, I mean, to be quite honest, we would have to have somebody who was skilled in dementia doing blood draws in a situation similar to the one that the person's in, and estimating with a panel of experts, of several of us trying it and saying, you know what? This looks like about the right amount of time to have for somebody who is more in a ruby state, gross strength only, no language. Somebody who's more in an amber state, wow, you're gonna need 10, 15 minutes for that person. I will tell you that that's our norm, either whether they're very sensitive to sensation or they're very okay with sensation. You may get lucky, but that's really just based on that individual. And when we get to the emerald state, I really have to assess where they are in coming in, and am I going to need a partner to engage them while I do this? So I know from the very start that I may need somebody to be with them while I do this so they feel safe and I can do my thing. Well, the person, so now we're talking about having to wait for a care staff member who could do that. So the honest answer, how many staff members? Until we do, we don't know what the honest answer is. The honest answer is, because guess what? We rarely are able to do what should be done. We get by with what has to be done. We know when it's too low, because then we have episodes of things we call neglect or abuse. We know that, and we know when we're misusing the number that we have. We know that when we're counting somebody who's mostly providing services on a med cart, they aren't available for care, they're doing the med cart. So to put them in the numbers, well, they're allowed to put them in the numbers because they are a carer who could be available, but what that means is meds are not being delivered as they should be, or we're using meds instead of care because that becomes, I don't know what else to do. I don't have enough. Traditionally, when we've looked at numbers, the bottom line numbers are, they shouldn't have been those numbers. That's not a reasonable number of humans to care for humans when we're actually looking at care staff, particularly if we're asking care staff to also care for environment, maybe clothing, maybe food, maybe, I mean, there's so many possibilities. But the other thing is, if we have those other people, housekeeping, laundry, are we training them to be part of a team? And have we actually done that? And is administration truly present every day, every time that we have a meal? They're literally there. They quit doing the other stuff they're doing and they're actively engaged. There are so many variables. And the challenge we have is there is so little valued about the care that people are delivering. There's not a real concrete, I'm trying to think of the right word is why I'm hesitating, concrete recognition. There is a difference in the quality of life and interaction, and there's different value when I have the right match of people with the people who have ability changes. So if I'm going to provide care for people who are in Ruby state, transitions are getting people, someone from inactive to active, and then maybe from active back to inactive, and the risk of falls and the risk of not doing things without a lot of support, being responsible for them, that takes more time than someone who, if I'm friendly and I give you what you like, and then I give you some other things you like, that actually can be less time, unless your brain is in a bad place because something happens somewhere else in your life and now your need for support goes up. So we need numbers that are reasonable numbers. In general, I think you're talking about 3 to 5 to 1, somewhere between 3 and 5. I think any more than 3 to 5, you're playing with dice and you're playing with people's lives and well-being. 5 is pushing the limit. And we could look at what we do with kids in school and say similar things. When we increase class size and we give people a range of kids' abilities, and watch right now with the virtual and real combinations, what we're doing is stressing teachers out, and really good teachers stop being really good teachers. And they're just trying to manage the craziness of their lives and what's going on. And that's what we ask too often and set carers up for in the world of brain change. And for people living with brain change, what a miserable way to spend my life. Being in need of something I never get, always running short and never having someone when I need them to support me living. So what about when it seems like people don't care? Well, that's my mission, if nothing else, is to say, hello, this is not okay. What you're doing is really not okay. And we keep saying it because you treat, to me, you speak truth to power whenever you can, not to be mean, but to raise the issue up, to give them a chance to see it and to get them to look, if at all possible, because it's part of being human. So I offer up to you, I don't know the exact ratio, but I know that often people are once again being asked to do the impossible with the inadequate for the invisible. And until we change that dynamic, I don't think we can fix what's essentially broken. I think those of us who are in it saying those numbers are not realistic. If you would like me to get this done, then I will be taking this. If you don't want me to do it, there's a hole there. So that puts me in a really difficult situation because I do care and you don't. What shall we do? The very best. But then there are times when I have to say, I can't do this anymore and feel like what I'm doing has value because I'm leaving things undone and I'm leaving things wrong. And that is destroying me. And I just can't. And when we can't because I do care. So that's an important thing to recognize. Doing what you can't do for so long, you won't. You can't. You can until you can't, and then you just can't. It's called burnout. And a lot of people are experiencing it because we aren't being heard or seen or responded to in a way that makes sense. So another deep breath. Letting go of what I can't fix, but not forgetting that it's there. What can I do? What can I show? What can I provide that might help you see the difference? I'll do the best I can, and hopefully others will take up the call. Till tomorrow, hope your day goes okay. Hope Facebook opens up and is visible. Take care, everybody.